Child soldiers, bonded labor, and voluntary servitude are only some of the terms used to describe the horrible reality of human trafficking. More unpretty are phrases like sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, and forced labor. All these crimes against humanity fall under the cover of what is now becoming known as the modern-day slavery.
The first time I met my trafficker, I was 17, and I was introduced to dancing in a strip club. And then that's kind of the way I kind of entered the dark world of trafficking.
Did you know that human trafficking is the third largest international crime industry, behind illegal drugs and arms trafficking? It reportedly generates a profit of $32 billion every year. What defines human trafficking? Human trafficking is the trade of humans for forced labor, sexual slavery, or commercial sexual exploitation for the trafficker or others. Making the case for mandatory training. Many human trafficking victims move through emergency departments of hospitals unidentified. Therefore, emergency department professionals should receive mandatory training to better screen for trafficking and assist the trafficked victims.
At least every couple of months, I would try to go seek medical treatment. I went there to, see if I can, just check to see if I had any STDs, to see if I can get condoms, and also to make sure that I took birth control. But when I went there, no one ever really asked me what's going on and how come you come in so often. They're not asking, why do you want to take STD tests, so often. I think there were signs and questions that they could have asked, but they didn't.
Roughly 88% of trafficking victims are reported to have said they have received medical care, with another 63% stating they were seen by emergency department professionals while actively being captive or trafficked. There is roughly 60. That's only 1% out of 6,000 hospitals in the U.S. that have policies to treat patients who may be victims. Florida and Michigan are the only two states that require healthcare workers to complete human trafficking training as part of their licensing procedure. Many ask, why don't the victims just speak up? Here are some reasons why. Fear and lack of knowledge of the legal and medical systems are factors. Their abuser could also be present at the time of their visit and may intimidate victims into silence. Geographical uncertainty and fear of deportation. Sometimes it may be as simple as they do not have a moment alone to speak privately and freely.
As healthcare providers, we're one of the few people in society that have the opportunity to see victims while they're being trafficked. And if we don't know how to recognize the signs and symptoms, the things to look for, we're going to miss them. That needs to change.
There are many ways emergency department professionals could screen for human trafficking. Here are a few assessment questions, for example, that could be possible indicators of trafficking. Are there locks on your doors and windows so you cannot get out? Have you ever been deprived of food, water, sleep, or medical care? There are also red flags that can be looked out for. Patient appears fearful, anxious, depressed, submissive, or paranoid. Patient is concerned about being arrested or jailed. Patient is concerned for his or her family's safety. 2 studies display the effectiveness of training ED staff. The Grace Report found that a jump of 7.2% to 59% in knowledgeable and very knowledgeable among self-rating ED staff who participated in an educational intervention, comparable to a jump of 4.8% before training to 53% after training for participants from the Chisholm-Stracker study who used an online learning module on human trafficking. Why should you be informed on human trafficking and emergency department training? You could possibly meet a human trafficking victim. Human trafficking is becoming an increasing issue in our own backyard. To encourage and support the call for mandatory training for emergency departments.
I think that every clinic needs this training because victims are across this country going in to seek medical treatment. Thinking back to my exploitation, had the staff been trained back then, my life may have turned out a lot different.